Every evening, we perform quiet rituals. We pull down the blinds, set our profiles to private, and slide a heavy metal deadbolt into place. These actions rely on a fragile social contract. A locked door functions primarily on the expectation that others will respect the boundary, rather than serving as an impenetrable physical defense. But what happens to the human psyche when a malicious threat decides to ignore that expectation? To answer that, we have to look at 3 true stories of ordinary people who trusted those everyday boundaries, temporary, domestic, and digital, only to have them breached. True terror does not require the supernatural. It lives entirely in the sudden, jarring realization that our daily security is an illusion. A hotel is a liminal space, a location where we rent temporary safety in a building filled with strangers. For one traveling salesman staying on the 3rd floor of a quiet Missouri lodge, that rented safety began to fracture late in the evening. Stepping out of his room for water, he stumbled into a frantic scene. A few doors down, 2 EMTs were performing aggressive chest compressions on an older man. Moments later, the flatline tone of a portable heart monitor echoed down the hall. Retreating to his bed, the salesman tried to shake off the encounter. Then, just before 1 a.m., he heard 3 soft knocks on his door. He looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. But as he stepped back, the metal door handle slowly and silently depressed downward. Paralyzed by fear, he waited in silence for an hour, until he heard another guest in the hallway. Opening his door, he found a pale, sunken-eyed man stepping out of the exact room where the emergency had occurred. When the salesman asked if he was with the patient, the man offered a cryptic reply. There had been 3 knocks, and the 3rd time was when they answered. This diagram maps the floor plan verified the next morning. He stayed in room 312. The emergency occurred exactly 3 doors down. The knocks came in distinct groups of 3, and the stranger's explanations centered entirely on the recurring variable of the number 3. The hotel room door was supposed to be a reliable barrier. Instead, it became a trap, locking him inside a mathematically precise nightmare, where coincidence felt indistinguishable from intent. If a hotel is a temporary haven, our homes are the ultimate physical sanctuary. That assumed safety is exactly what an abusive ex-boyfriend named Paul targeted when he violated a restraining order against a young woman named Misty. The escalation began violently. Late at night, Paul smashed in Misty's bedroom window, a window positioned immediately next to her bunk bed, exactly where he knew she slept. Misty and her roommate immediately called the police, but response times in their city dragged on. After hours of waiting and keeping watch, no one appeared. The immediate physical threat seemed to have vanished, allowing a cautious sense of calm to return to the apartment. The following evening, that calm shattered. Misty was alone in her bedroom, scrolling on her phone, before deciding to grab some cleaning supplies. She casually opened her closet door, only to find Paul standing motionless in the dark among her clothes, staring at her with a blank expression. In a fraction of a second, Misty had to make a difficult psychological pivot. Any visible panic could trigger violence. Her face went white, but her voice stayed dead cold. She spoke to him normally, while her hands frantically typed a text to her roommate to call 911. The terrifying reality of a known intruder is how thoroughly they weaponize your own layout against you. The walls meant to keep danger out become the very things hiding it inside. Even if our physical walls hold, we increasingly rely on digital anonymity to protect us. For an 18-year-old university student, that boundary collapsed starting with a random Instagram message from a stranger. The conversation started with awkward small talk and a request to play Truth or Dare, but the tone shifted when it was the stranger's turn to ask a question. Out of nowhere, the man casually asked how the student was enjoying life at university. The student had never mentioned college to this man. He had 0 digital footprint regarding his location, and his profile offered no clues. Spooked by this impossible knowledge, he blocked the account without hesitation. This chart tracks the stalker's relentless digital pursuit over the next 2 years. After the initial block on Instagram, the timeline shows a long period of silence. But 2 years later, this same man bypassed those restrictions. When he was blocked again, he successfully tracked the student down on a completely unlinked TikTok account. Days after that final block, the digital threat materialized in the real world. Walking home in the dark, the student heard footsteps trailing him. He stopped, The footsteps stopped. He turned around to find the pale man from the photographs standing motionless under a street lamp. The man calmly greeted him by name. The student ran. He sprinted into his residential complex, terrified to look back. Crashing into his locked front door, his shaking hands desperately dug for his keys while expecting the stalker to turn the corner at any second. Digital security is built on the assumption of distance. This case demonstrates how easily that distance can evaporate when a digital obsession finds a physical path to its target. The acute danger in each of these stories has passed. The stalker vanished into the night, the abusive ex went to jail, and the salesman checked out of his Missouri hotel. But the trauma remains. These individuals were left navigating new, hyper-vigilant realities. The salesman now compulsively counts the doors separating his room from the stairwell. Misty now relies on active restraining orders. And the student walks through his city constantly checking over his shoulder in the dark. This is the core psychological toll of an invasion. Once a boundary has been proven ineffective, the brain incorporates that vulnerability into every future interaction with a similar environment. So the next time you lock your front door, check into a hotel room, or accept a friend request from a stranger, consider the fragile nature of that security. After all, a boundary is only a boundary if the person on the other side decides to respect it.